So excited to be with you guys today to talk about this topic of social media and building a brand, building a marketable brand. I'm not here to sit here and say, hey, don't tweet this, don't post that, don't be an idiot, don't screw up. You guys have been told that your whole life of what not to do on social media, and those things matter, right? There are risks associated with social media, and you've got to be aware of those things, be intentional about how you use it. I'm far more concerned with you using it on purpose, right? To say, hey, this is not a toy, this is a tool. This is something that's useful for me today as a student athlete, and tomorrow as I move into the real world. And so that's kind of my focus. And so I've been doing this for about 10 years, working with teams and organizations and student athletes and coaches and athletic directors on how to use social media on purpose. To give you some perspective, when I started this company, Snapchat didn't exist, TikTok didn't exist, Instagram was like 2 months old and nobody knew about it. So I've been doing this for a while, living in this space, and I love social media. It's because of social media that I get to do this, right? I've been fortunate to connect with people like Devin and other leaders around the industry purely because of social media. When I started this company, I didn't have any connections. I knew 0 people in the sports world. I was just a sports fan with a Twitter account, and used social media to connect, and have been fortunate enough to use it to travel around the country and speak and provide for my family and have influence. So I'm excited to be with you guys virtually today. Just left Florida, was there on vacation last week, so I'm a little bit jealous of the fact that you get to be there almost all the time. So let's just get into it. And so the idea is that social media, it's not just Twitter, it's not just Instagram, it's not just Snapchat. Like, these are really powerful platforms. These are really powerful tools. And I think of it as like a weapon or a tool, right? Weapons do damage, right? Good things don't generally come from weapons. And if you use social media like a weapon, bad things are going to happen. Bad things for you, bad things for those around you. Destruction is what will follow. Or you can use it as a tool. Tools build things, right? Tools build, and for us with social media, tools are going to build a platform. It's going to build influence. It's going to build a brand. It's going to build a reputation. So you can use it as a weapon or use it as a tool. And some of you may be saying, like, I'm not using it as a weapon. I don't really care how I use it. I'm just using it, I would say, accidentally, right? You're just using it just to use it. I would say that is unintentionally using it as a weapon, because you're not being careful. If you don't have a plan, you don't have a reason for what you're posting and what you're not posting, right? Purpose drives our actions. And when you don't have a purpose, you're going to make mistakes unintentionally. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, right? We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. But if you don't have a plan or a purpose for why you're using social media, it's going to lead to some unintentionally bad outcomes, bad circumstances. That's what I want you to be thinking about today is that, and when I say build your brand, don't hear me saying like have 100,000 followers, have 1 million. I don't care how many followers you have. There are people with 100,000 followers who have very little influence in the world, right? The amount of followers is not the thing. It's about what kind of person are you? Are you living and sharing a story that's worth following? If I'm following, like, why should I follow you? Why should I care about you? Why should I hire you? Why should I come to your game and support you? Those are the things that we're going to be learning and getting from you on social media. So when I say build a brand, that's what I mean. Building something of value. And so I want to talk about this idea of you are a brand, you have a story, and you get to own the message. Because here's the truth with social media. Like, you own it. I can't tell your story for you. Now, the department, they can put out videos and they can write articles, like they can do some things and telling your story, but ultimately you own your story. You own your message. Every time you hit send, you are telling the world something about you. Every time you hit send, you are either building your brand or destroying your brand. And you could replace brand with reputation, influence, however you want to put that. Every time you hit send, you are telling the world something about you. So what are you telling the world about you? If you don't like where your brand is at right now, do something about it. Right? You get to change the story. You get to change the narrative. And again, that doesn't mean you're posting a bunch of terrible things. It could just be, most of what I see on social media is, I'm tired, I'm hungry, practice was hard, they gave us homework. Right? Not bad stuff, it's just noisy. Well, noisy content doesn't build a strong brand, right? You think about Adidas. Adidas doesn't post just to post. They have a purpose, right? Everything they do is to make people think something specific about Adidas, so that ultimately you buy something from Adidas. Same thing for you. Every time you hit send, what do you want people to be thinking about you? That's what building a brand, a personal brand is. It's like, what do I want people to think about me? And am I using social media in a way to make that reality? We use the same concept with leader development. We always ask leaders, what's it like to be on the other side of your leadership? And how are you going to change that? If you don't like the answer, what are you going to do to change that? So the same thing. If you don't like the current state of your brand, of your reputation, of your influence, what are you going to do to change it? Because you have to take ownership. Ultimately, it lies with you. So we come up with kind of 4 ideas, 4 ways of what it really means to be your best on social media. And this is going to look, by the way, there's no right way to use social media. Like, let's just get that out of the way. There are some wrong ways, but right is whatever is right for you, right? I'm not telling you to use social media the way I do. I have different goals. I have a different story. I have different purpose. So you can learn from things that I do, but you have to figure out how does social media work for you? What do you want to get from social media? So the 4 things we want to talk about fairly quickly are this idea of building a core, eliminating the noise, staying positive, and thinking long-term. So building your core, what does that mean? So you guys are athletes, and you know, like the foundation of your strength comes from your core, right? Without a strong core, you're out there flailing around. You're going to hurt yourself, ultimately hurt your team, because you're not prepared. You're not ready. You don't have the stamina or strength to endure, to perform, to do what you need to do to help the team win. So your core is your foundation of your strength. Same thing on social media. Your core is your identity. Everything you do on social media should be flowing from who you are, your identity, your purpose, your why. Why are you on social media? Like, most of us don't have an answer for that. My friends got on it in high school, and so I'm just on it. Right? Doesn't mean it's bad, but there's no real purpose. And if there's no purpose, you're adding noise, you're not adding value. Again, there's nothing guiding what you're posting, what you're not posting, what you're doing, what you're not doing. Maybe your purpose is to get a job. Maybe you want to use social media to get a job. I just had a conversation actually with an athletic director last week while I was driving to Florida on vacation. He had just interviewed for a job, had several interviews, thought he was going to get the job. Like, they said, hey, let's talk tomorrow. He said, great. He thought he was hopping on a Zoom call to get a job offer. He hopped on a Zoom call and they were asking about his social media use. Hey, we noticed this. Hey, tell us. And what was interesting is that none of it was bad. That school just decided it wasn't a fit for who they are, which worked out good for him, right? Like, it's better to know that, but his social media use prevented him from actually getting the job at that school. So how are you using social media? Why are you using social media? The why determines the how. So what is your core? What is your why? Again, what do you want to be known for? When I see your name, if I were to follow you and I saw your name scroll through my timeline, what do you want me to think about you? You want me to think like Len student athlete is one thing right now. And so I would say, like, come up with 3 to 4 things, like 3 to 4 identity words that drive what you do on social media. Like, so for me, that's leadership, that's culture, that's social media, it's business, and a little bit of coffee because I have a slight addiction. So those are generally the things that I'm going to talk about. If you find me on social media, that's what I'm going to be talking about. And when I started Fieldhouse, I posted a lot about student athletes and social media, sports and social media, athletic directors and social media, because I wanted people to think of me in that light. And I built a career off of that. About 5 years ago, when I shifted to doing not just social media training, but also leadership development, I started posting a lot more about leadership, about culture, about self-awareness, so that now I've become known for that. That was intentional. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't just because I cared about it, although I did. I wanted people to think this when they saw my name. Now, I also think this should be different on every platform. Who I am on Twitter is a little bit different than who I am on Instagram. Same person, but Instagram, it's all those things, but it's a lot more family. I'll post about leadership. I'll post about business stuff, but I'm going to sprinkle a lot more family on Instagram than I do on Twitter. So thinking through your purpose of each platform. What is your why? You're a Len student athlete. Maybe you want to be seen as a leader, maybe a musician, maybe humor, maybe art, right? What do you want to be known for? And here's what you've got to realize, that every time you hit send, it's not just your friends, right? It's the media. It's your peers, your students in class with you. It's the community. It's recruits. It's parents of recruits. It's future employers. So let's think through, if I'm a recruit considering playing at Lynn, and the coaches give me their spiel, I'm like, hey, that sounds great, but I'm going to follow the players on the team. Every time you hit send, you're telling them something about you, something about the culture of the team that you're on, the culture of campus, the culture of the town. If I'm a recruit, would I want to be on your team? Are you someone that I would want to come spend 4 years of my life with? Do I want to come play here because of what you post on social media? What if I'm a parent of a recruit? Same thing. Coach gave me the spiel. That's awesome. I'm going to follow their players. Are you someone that I want my son or daughter to go spend 4 years of their life with? What are you showing me about you, about the culture of the team, about the culture of the department? Right? Every time you hit send, you're telling part of that story. Eliminating the noise. Right? Again, most of what I see is not inappropriate when it comes to student athletes on social media. It exists. If I were to follow you on Snapchat, I would find all sorts of terrible things. I don't have time to creep around on 20-year-olds on Snapchat, so I'm not going to do that. But I know it exists. I've seen it for 10 years. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on Instagram. Seen it on Facebook. Seen it on Snapchat. Seen it on TikTok. But most of it is again that I'm hungry. I'm tired. It's raining. It's like, great. I've got a window. I can see that it's raining. I don't need you to tell me that it's raining, right? It's not bad. It's not inappropriate. It's not stuff you're going to be disciplined for. It's just you have a chance to tell the world anything, and you told the world that you're hungry. Like, that's the message that you chose to share with the world. It's like, we have an opportunity to really build influence and do something significant. And I think we miss that quite a bit because we don't treat social media with the power that it actually deserves. And so we end up adding noise. I love this. This is from a few years ago, SVP with ESPN. Because I'll always wake up and I'll scroll through Twitter. And it's like, oh, rise and grind, hashtag hustle, hashtag no days off. Like, I know you go to practice. Like, that's what student athletes and athletes everywhere do. Like, we just wake up and we go do our job. Like, I don't need you to tell me that. That's expected. Just wake up and go to practice. Now, maybe tell me a story, like what happened at practice. What happened on campus. Now, that doesn't mean coaches don't worry. I'm not saying they should be running around the soccer field, like phone in hand, filming practice, right? I get it. But they could be telling us a story of what practice was like. Bring us into what it means to be a student athlete at Lynn. When you walk into class at 9 o'clock and you're tired because you've already had 2 hours of practice, and those students next to you are like, what's with that guy? Oh man, I saw your Instagram story. That workout looked nuts. Maybe I should come support you Thursday night. Yeah, maybe you should, because that workout was nuts and I'm tired. It's like bringing people into your story. I was with a school one year, their women's basketball team, after practice, they had this massive tractor tire. Don't know what they did with it, but they stood it up, took a picture, and the girl posted on Instagram. It's like, that was her rise and grind. It's like, we did something with this tractor tire, brought us into their story. Say, hey, this is the work that we do on this team. So get away from noise, add value, right? Value over noise. And you do that when you have a purpose, when you have a why. Being positive. I know that seems cliche, that seems cheesy, but man, there's a lot of negativity on the internet. Like, it is where everyone goes to complain about everything. And nobody likes to be around negative people. Like, we just don't. Like, the negative person on your team, you don't want to hang out with that person. The negative person in class, you don't want to be in a group project with that person. So why would we think that's any different on the internet, right? We don't need to spread negativity. And that doesn't mean be fake positive, right? Like, I'm not expecting you to go fail a test and be like, oh, what a beautiful day, hashtag blessed. Like, no, that's weird. It's like, you don't have to share every single issue on social media. And you're going to have bad days. You're going to fail tests. You're going to lose games. You're going to have relationships that fall apart. You're going to get injured. Like, life is full of adversity. And don't take this the wrong way. You're not special because you face adversity. That's just life. We're all facing adversity every single day. It's not unique to you. We get selfish and we think the world's like conspiring against us. It's like, no, that's conspiring against all of us. Like, we're all facing adversity every single day. I mean, I had 2 years where I made $0. If you're a business major, like, you know that that's not good, right? I'm a husband, I'm a dad, trying to provide for my family, trying to start a business. 2 years where I made $0. You think I was positive, in a good mood? No. I was depressed, I was anxious, I was negative, I was all sorts of things that were unhealthy. Was I that on the internet? No. Because you know what I would still be? I'd be 10 years in without making $1 because nobody wants to do business with it. Like, look how negative I am on social media. Hey, why don't you bring me in to talk to your student athletes and coaches about social media? It's like, no, my negativity, I dealt with that with my people. Like my wife, my friends, my community, like they got my struggles, they got my failures, they got my frustrations. The internet got positive versions of me. And that's not being fake, right? The internet on some level is your highlight reel. Like you don't want to read about someone's terrible day necessarily on the internet. You deal with that with people. So you're going to have bad days, just deal with that in the right places. When you have team drama, the internet's not your journal. Right? Keep that in the team. Most of the time, I think this generation, you're not trying to cause drama. The internet is just where you process. Like old school people would have an actual like paper diary or journal, and they'd write things and they'd get it out and they'd be good and nobody would ever see it. Now we do that on the internet. We're not trying to cause harm. We're not trying to be a bad teammate. We're just processing what happened, but then we've made a much bigger issue out of something that wasn't really an issue, right? We posted like, whew, I'm good. All right, get out of my system. Well, now it's gone to a completely different level because now other people are involved that didn't need to be involved. So be positive on the internet. Is that cheesy? Maybe, but what's the alternative? To be negative? It's like, why would you want to be negative on the internet and give people that impression of you? When you have bad days, deal with that with your people. I want to talk a little bit about your platform, your voice. Be careful with this because I know this is touchy with people. It is a weird time to be in America. Let's just call it that. There's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of you against me. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of division. It's an opportunity for you to create change, to be the good. You have an opportunity that your generation, I don't think, in my opinion, has never had in the history of time. Young people have a chance to create change because you have a voice, because the internet gives you a platform, it gives you an outlet. You've never had that before. With that comes responsibility, it comes power, all sorts of things. Here's what I will say to this. If you care about an issue, post about it. Post about it. Like add your voice, share your perspective. If you don't care about an issue, don't post about it. It's okay. Like you don't have to have an opinion on everything. It's like, and if you don't have an opinion, don't add noise to an already really noisy, chaotic place. But if you care about something, if you care about an issue, share about it. Be a voice. Use your platform for good. Use it for change. The only thing I'll really say is, well, two things. One, make sure you're not creating division. Like how you share that message really matters. Two, make sure that you are informed about it. Not emotional about it, but informed about it. Because what will happen is something will come through our timeline and all of a sudden we get fired up and really angry and we fire off a tweet out of emotion. Well, Twitter's usually wrong. And 2 or 3 days later, it's like, oh, that issue I've fired off this tweet about actually wasn't real at all. That's not what happened. And I just added threw more fuel on those flames. It's like, no, if you see it, wait, pause, talk to someone about it, get more information, take a breath, and then add a purposeful, reasonable response to it. So I want you to use your voice. I'm not going to sit here and say, don't use your voice. Absolutely use your voice. Use it with everything that you have in you to create change. Use it on purpose. You don't want to unintentionally be a voice of destruction and division, right? Use your voice, create change. You have a really special opportunity to do things that matter. I want you to take advantage of that. Last thing I want to hit on is the idea of thinking long-term. What's really hard about social media is that it's very instant. It's very right now. What are you doing right now? What are you thinking right now? What are you watching right now? Where are you at right now? And we don't think about how is this post going to impact me a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Well, that comes from having a plan, right? From playing the long game. So, I'm posting about these things today because I'm trying to get here. Just like with your craft as an athlete. Right? You practiced as a high school athlete, middle school athlete, because you had a plan to play in college. So you did things, you didn't necessarily want to do them at that time, but you did things, you created habits, you put the work in for a future payoff. Same thing with social media. You need to be building towards something. So think long-term. Don't put something on the internet today that you're going to regret in a year from now. That's going to harm you. That's going to drastically change who you are. Think long-term. As you post, and this is easier for seniors than it is for freshmen. All right, so I get that. But if you're a freshman, you got to be thinking, if I post this, there's some employer who loves to hire student athletes, who specifically loves to hire Lynn student athletes. And so they're going to follow you because you're a student athlete at Lynn. They're going to think, man, I love hiring student athletes, especially from the school. I'm going to see what this kid's all about. And you're a freshman or a sophomore and you hit send, you're like, ooh, That's not a kid that I want in my company. You just missed out on an opportunity you didn't even know existed. On the same token, by having a plan, by being intentional, you can get your foot in the door at places you didn't even know existed. Right? That guy is going to be calling you and say, hey, I've been following you for 2 or 3 years, which sounds creepy. It's the internet nowadays, just how the world goes. And they're going to say, I've watched you perform, but I've also seen who you are on the field. I've seen who you are online. I've seen who you are on social media. I trust your character. I want to talk to you about a job. So be thinking long-term with the way that you use social media. It's not such an instant game. Have a plan for how you use it. This is a guy a couple years ago. He was at College World Series. Auburn, College of Charleston are playing. This is a scout. I believe he was for the Dodgers. He was tracking this guy's pitches, and this fan behind him looked down and saw he's scrolling through the pitcher's social media. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Who are you? Like his uncle, his dad? He's like, no, I'm a scout. I know this guy can pitch. I'm trying to see if he's good enough to be in our organization. He has the right character for our organization. Great, he can throw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. Who is he as a person? Right? We can develop talent. Character is a lot harder, and that's what organizations are looking for when it comes to how you use social media. So I'm not saying be boring. I'm not saying be average. I'm not saying be quote unquote safe on social media. I'm saying be you, but be wise about how you're you, right? You have a unique story perspective. Like there's enough average out there. Be you, be different, stand out, but just be mindful of how some of those things could be received, right? Your new resume is 280 characters long, is your Twitter account. Resumes, great. They all look the same. They all have good references. You're going to put your projects and your internships, whatever. I want to find out who you are. And I've got, by the way, story after story after story after story of student athletes who changed the way they use social media and have a story of how they got jobs because of it. Employers saying, we had 3 finalists for this job. All were great. All were great. Like they all would have done a good job. We picked you because of how you use social media. It came down to that. That allowed us to see your character and that you fit our culture, you fit our staff. It can get you a job. What you've got to be asking yourself, like, let's say a company is going to pay you $50,000 a year and they hope you stick around for 5 years. Based on, like, scroll through your last 30 tweets or posts, would you invest $250,000 in you? Based on the way that you use social media? Would you invest in you based on the way that you use social media? If not, don't blame that company. Think about how you use social media. Take ownership. So I'm going to put myself in position to succeed. Right? Take advantage of building a core. Without that, none of the rest of it matters. That your identity drives everything. Right? Identity drives behaviors. Identity drives everything you're going to do in life. Right? This is not just about social media. This is about life. And who you are online needs to match up with who you are offline, because we'll find out that gap pretty quick. But it all flows out of your identity of what you want to be known for. Decide your core values, your core identity, and let that allows you to say, nope, I'm not going to post this. It may not be bad, but it's not in line with who I am. It allows you to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. At the end of the day, you've got 2 choices. You can be accidental or you can be intentional. Again, this is something we use with leaders all the time. You're not going to intentionally get better. You're not going to accidentally get better. You're not going to accidentally run a marathon. You're not going to accidentally have influence. You're not going to accidentally be healthy. You've got to be intentional. You can't, like, hope's great, but it's not a strategy. You're not going to accidentally have a good social media presence, a valuable social media presence, a marketable social media presence. You've got to be intentional to say, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to represent myself, my team, my coach, my university, my family. I'm going to be, again, not about right or wrong. It's about being wise. You can justify right or wrong all day long. It's, will you be wise and intentional with how you use social media? It's a choice. And at the end of the day, the only person who has control over it is you. I can tell you what to do. Coaches can tell you what to do. Administrators can tell you what to do. You have a choice. And how social media impacts your life is ultimately up to you. So will you be intentional or accidental? Will you use it as a tool or as a weapon? Thank you, guys.